Ever since his NFL debut in Week 2 of the 2020 season, Justin Herbert has been recognized as one of the best and most talented quarterbacks that the league has to offer. It's easy to get distracted by his insane arm talent, the feathery touch, the great ball placement, and the ability to make any throw at any arm angle. But at some point, with all that talent, has to come winning. The quarterback position is arguably the most difficult yet franchise-altering position in all of sports. With an elite quarterback, you're always in contention, but if you don't have one, it could take years to be relevant again. The Chargers clearly have their guy. Any reasonable person who makes a quarterback rankings list is going to have Justin Herbert in their top 10, maybe even top 5. There's never going to be a consensus agreement on this often argued about topic. Are wins and losses a quarterback stat? When you go to Pro Football Reference and look up a player's name, the only position where record is shown is the quarterback position. But we also know that wins and losses can't be fully determined by how a quarterback is playing. For me personally, there's a lot of nuance to it. The way I've always looked at it is, if you're that good of a quarterback, you're going to win some games. Quarterbacks do have the most influence in any outcome of any football game, so therefore I partially take quarterback records into account when having these discussions. It does happen, of course, but it's rare for a quarterback to put up elite numbers, yet the team is still not winning. The example I always go back to when mentioning this is Deshaun Watson in 2020. Watson that season led the league in passing, had 36 total touchdowns, and only turned the ball over 10 times, but the Texans went 4-12. But it feels like stuff like that is just the outlier. When you start to examine Justin Herbert's career though, you start to realize that his win-loss record is not where it should be for a quarterback of his talent level. Herbert currently has a 500 record, sitting at 29-29 for his career. That also includes an 0-1 playoff record where his Chargers choked a 27-0 lead in Jacksonville last year. And for the record, I don't think Herbert was even that bad in that game. 273 yards passing, no turnovers, scored 30 points, but the team still lost. It is hard to pin that on the quarterback. And if Cameron Dicker makes that 40-yard field goal late in the game would have been over. So why is Justin Herbert a 500 quarterback? Honestly, we have to start with the Chargers defense. Here's where the Chargers defense has ranked league-wide since Herbert debuted in 2020. They ranked 23rd in points allowed in 2020, 29th in points allowed in 2021, 21st in 2022, and 24th so far in 2023. Maybe you've heard this stat before, maybe you haven't, but it's pretty eye-opening. When the Chargers defense has allowed over 30 points, Justin Herbert's record is 2-14 lifetime. But when the Chargers defense has allowed less than 30 points in a game, Herbert's record is 27-13. And remember that playoff loss in Jacksonville, they let up over 30 points as well. When Brandon Staley came over from the Rams as their defensive coordinator, it was supposed to help fix the Chargers defense. But based on the numbers I've already provided, it clearly has not been fixed. And it's not like the Chargers have talent deficiencies on their defense. When you have Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Sebastian Joseph Day, Asante Samuel Jr., Derwin James, and other good players, there's no excuse to at least be a top half defense in the league. Staley hasn't even had this group top 20 in points allowed since his arrival in 2021. Staley has been a bad NFL head coach so far in his 2.5 years with the Chargers. There was a chart recently posted by Joe Reedy on X, and it shows where the Chargers rank amongst the NFL in important team stats since 2021. The Chargers offense ranks top 10 in these areas since 2021. Points per game, total yards per game, passing yards per game, least amount of time sacked, least amount of turnovers, and plays that went over 40 and 50 yards. The one area the Chargers offense has been abysmal in is the rushing yards per game. They rank 29th in the NFL since 2021 in that rushing yards per game category. Austin Eckler is obviously an excellent back. He even excels on the goal line despite his size, but he's never going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. The Chargers have never had a good run game with Justin Herbert. They've tried to address the position with Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller, but that has not worked at all. Now, when you look at the Chargers' defensive rankings since 2021, it's pretty horrific. They've ranked bottom 5 in the league in these categories since 2021. Points per game allowed, total yards allowed per game, rushing yards per game, game allowed, third down conversion rate allowed, and explosive plays allowed. Do I think Herbert deserves at least a little criticism? Sure, he's not perfect. He's had his moments of bad interceptions late in games or not converting a fourth down late in the game, but when you take a step back and evaluate the entire situation, it is more than just a lazy narrative that Herbert is overrated. Even with all that, he still continues to put up great numbers, always keeps that team competitive, and elevates the players around him. His current receiving core is pretty awful besides Keenan Allen. I'm already on record of not liking Quentin Johnston that much, and their wide receiver 3 is Jalen Guyton. With Mike Williams out for the year with the ACL and Joshua Palmer now on IR, it's tough to operate, and that's completely understandable. I mean, look at their last game versus the Detroit Lions on Sunday. The Chargers offense put up 38 points, and they still lost. Like, what else do you want your quarterback to do there? And they put up 38 points, all while the Chargers ran the ball for 3.5 yards per carry, and 2 of their top 3 receivers were sidelined. Either Herbert has terrible luck, or the Chargers need a new coach. Both can be true. And Chargers fans know a lot about bad breaks and having bad luck. Just mention the name Nate Kading to them, and they might start to tear up. Although they sit at 4-5 this year, I'm not ready to write the Chargers off just yet. Their schedule really isn't that bad going forward, but they're going to need their defense to at least be average. They can realistically get to 9 wins, and if that's good enough to sneak in or not, I don't know, but it's still possible to get there. If not, it could be the end of Brandon Staley, and maybe that's the best thing for Herbert going forward. There's been that rumor recently of Bill Belichick going to the Chargers after this year, and to be honest, I don't hate that as long as he's not their GM, but I'm sure he would want to be. Even in this nightmare season for the Patriots, the defense in New England ranks 23rd in points allowed this season. And let me remind you that Brandon Staley's best Chargers defense since being their coach in 2021 is 21st in points allowed. It'd be hard to imagine Belichick having an awful defense if he has an offense led by Justin Herbert. But at the end of the day, Herbert is still 25 and on pace for a Hall of Fame career. I do think the playoff success will come eventually, but it's a shame that his rookie contract window was wasted by Brandon Staley and a bad defense. And personally, I like Justin Herbert. As a Giants fan, I'll never forgive him for going back to Oregon, where instead if he had declared for the draft that year, there was a very good chance he'd be a Giant right now. I had the opportunity of meeting Justin Herbert last year at an event, and in all honesty, he seems like a really chill dude. Obviously, he has all the talent in the world, and I just hope the Chargers can find a head coach that can maximize that talent. The Chargers already wasted 14 years of Phillip Rivers, so you'd hate to see history repeat itself. Anyway, that's gonna do it. In conclusion, I don't think Herbert's overrated, but I do think the winning has to come within the next couple years. If he's not winning playoff games by like 2025, that's an issue. And as I said, if the Chargers miss the playoffs this year, it's hard to imagine Brandon Staley retaining his job. So maybe that's the best thing for them. We'll have to see. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, it always helps out. And I'll talk to you guys next time.